Hi, so going to start a little bit early. We typically have a problem with running over, so I'll use the 3 minutes that I've been given here to kick off. Has anyone ever done public speaking before here? Anyone ever spoke somewhere like this? I think the question I get asked a lot is, does it get easier? And the answer is no. You still go into these things pretty scared, so whenever there's 90% of the seats filled, it's always a relief, so you've made this a lot easier for me just by being here, so I appreciate that. Mastering Amazon. I kind of panicked and thought this said marketing Amazon, and I thought I'd maybe missed something last night, but mastering Amazon, that's what we try and do. I've done this for 15 years. It's actually the only job I've ever worked, just down to kind of sheer fortune. And 15 years ago, whenever you told people you sold on Amazon, they thought you were, sort of selling products in South America and so on. And over the last 15 years, selling on Amazon has become a more normalized occupation. So I'm in a good spot. I'm kind of lucky to have been here for so long, and I really enjoy it. And then I do things like this to kind of push myself and to touch base with people. So. I'm a founder of all things Amazon.co.uk. These guys don't work there, that would be quite worrying. These three guys belong to me, apparently anyway. I'm not so sure, especially this one on the far right. He just doesn't seem like me. But this is sort of my background and why I do what I do. I'm from Ireland, in case you haven't picked up already. I probably speak too fast and may curse the odd time, and there should be a pint of Guinness here with me, but the organizer said I couldn't, so this is the best you're going to get. And we've done this for a long period. We're having to evolve, so we're going from all things Amazon.co.uk to all things Amazon.co.uk and .ie, because Amazon decided to drop a bombshell and tell us they're not launching Amazon in our country. So we have a lot of work to do there, and we have a lot of home ground to make up. And we're starting to look at other marketplaces too, because marketplaces are all very, very related, and Amazon's like the center of that, and they kind of created the pattern. But a lot of marketplaces are following that, and we're trying to understand that and get ahead of that. 25% of our Amazon client revenue has now moved from on Amazon to on other marketplaces, and that 25%, the majority of those points shifted in the past 2 years. There's a lot of change going on. So yes, 17 years I've done this for, total revenue managed, broad spectrum, 287 million. That's 428 projects and 121 brands and sellers. And the way we see ourselves is we're builders. We take the complex stuff, we take the fun stuff, the zero sales to date but unlimited possibility stuff, and we really enjoy this and we enjoy what we do, and we try and build from the ground up. And sometimes people come along with revenue already, and sometimes people come along with zero but ambition and a hell of a lot of sort of future in front of them. We love that too. And I've only got 20 minutes today, so I tried to break it down, and I've done this is my third year in a row. So I did a story last year, and that went down really well, or so LinkedIn said, so I've tried to put that back in the middle, and I've got these other two things around it so that I'm doing something a bit different. So the first one's Amazon myths. Second is the story of algorithms, which is my personal favorite. Hopefully that kind of comes through the microphone to you all. And the third one's case studies. I just wanted to give you some real evidence. And the fourth one's a Q&A. You can literally ask anything, and that's as broad as you want it to be. You say whatever you want, and I'll try and give you a good answer. If someone else in the audience has a better answer than me, they should take over as well. Maybe they'll be here next year. So Amazon myths. I don't know why I started with this. Kind of find it quite fun and interesting. So Amazon fees can be negotiated down. 15% is really dear. The amount of time I hear this is hilarious, and my answer to them now is it's wrong, because Amazon's revenue is greater than the UK VAT revenue. So do you often try and negotiate the VAT man down? I don't think so. And that is my answer back to the finance people who pushed that question on me. Amazon's 15% is global, and for most categories it's 15%, and it's been that way for 10, 15, 20 years, so can you negotiate it down? Not really. Amazon will copy my product and steal my sales. Who's heard this one before? Okay, so we're starting to get the numbers up here. Wee bit less binary, this one. Amazon may copy your product, but with how they look at things, you're probably going to be having to do about £1 million a year on that one product. If you're doing £1 million a year on that one product, you've a lot going for you, and if Amazon decide to go into a fight with you, well, you're in a good position to take them on, so don't worry about that. That day may or may not come, but just go with it either way. And they have bigger worries. I don't know if anyone saw, but they cut a load of vendor accounts in the last month or so. Total number of vendor accounts that we know were cut was 800, and that's just our contacts and our network. So that's been kind of crazy, and Amazon's making big moves that way. So there's a lot of change, but don't worry, that's not the way to look at things. Fulfillment by Amazon is really expensive, and storage is really dear. Many people have heard this one. not as many on this, so maybe that myth is starting to kind of go away. From our experience, that's mostly wrong. On regular size items, it's actually very competitive. Now, obviously, you need to bring a few things into that. It's not just the price you pay for the shipping; it's the price you pay for the shipping, plus a bit of your storage, plus a bit of your processing, plus the staff who do that. And the other flip about this is Amazon fulfillment by Amazon should never be taken as a number on its own, because the cost may not match, and that's okay. Even if sometimes Amazon fulfillment is a bit dear, because unlike other fulfillment, unlike other 3PL, Amazon fulfillment has another added advantage, which is it can increase your sales and very significantly, and that's all tied in the Amazon algorithm, which we'll touch upon. So for anyone who's in the previous session, we talked a lot about ads, and my ROAS, my return on advertising spend, is 5x. I'm killing it in Amazon. I hear this a lot, and there's a big fight in this, and to break it down, your ROAS historically has been ads revenue only, so it's a number that just is used for your ads revenue as a singular. But if your ads is only 1% of your sales, then really your ROAS isn't doing very much, and if you're at a 15 ROAS, and it's only 1% of sales, you should really be trying to bring that ROAS down to get your 1% of sales up. So what we try and use is tacos, and a lot of clients are using that, so that's total advertising cost of sale, that's your Amazon percentage spend on ads divided by your top line revenue, and that gives you a much better barometer, because you can actively spend more on ads and still benefit the business. Because if you spend an additional 1% on ads, but you add 35% in top line revenue, and therefore as a part of that you add another 9 points in margin, then yes, you've increased your ad spend, you have made your ROAS worse, but your business is better. So we don't want people getting lost in that, and we talk a lot about this. And Amazon can be ran to mirror D2C to strategy. I actually don't like my wording in this one. Basically, Amazon can follow your website. There's a lot of people believe that, and from over the years of doing this, what I would imagine, and the way I think this will go in the future, is I think you're going to have marketplace people and you're going to have website people, and the two strategies are often very different. Some brands, I was speaking to a gentleman earlier on, some brands actually have like whole separate divisions where their marketplace people and their website people almost don't speak to each other, and the reason for that is the strategy can be so separated and so far apart that really you need to separate it, because if you try and deal with both of them with the same sort of single action plan, one of them's going to work very well, or one of them's not going to, or neither of them are going to work very well. And some of the best companies that I've ever seen have a head of marketplaces / Amazon, and they have a head of e-commerce, and the two are colleagues, and they're like on the same similar rank, and they just work off totally different hymn sheets. And you really, really have to look at that on your journey, because someone who runs a website may think that Amazon's just a walk in the park and should copy it, but it's very, very rarely true, and vice versa. You can't put a marketplace person onto a website. I would be extremely damaging if somebody put me onto a website in terms of my strategy, because I'd be like, well, where's Prime? And what about big sort of October Big Prime Day or whatever it's called? And that's not how websites work, and I'm happy with that. I'm happy with my kind of area and just staying within marketplaces. So, story of algorithms. Was anyone here last year for this talk? This is good. I'd guessed it was going to be about a third, and I was like, we're going to be repeating myself here, but hopefully with 364-day gap, most of you will have forgotten all of it. So most people here are brand new, this is good, and hopefully all of this is new to you. So Amazon algorithm, not talked about enough. Everyone knows about Amazon ads, everyone knows about Amazon FBA. Amazon algorithm isn't talked about at all, and the Amazon ads people are like here somewhere, so I'm not sure if there's any of them sitting here, and I'm not sure if they're going to agree this is true, but this is my perception of how the algorithm works. And we have a lot of data behind this. So when you think of algorithm, think of momentum. What do I mean by momentum? I actually don't know what the physics definition is, but really momentum for us is the rolling ball, the rolling snowball, things moving at pace, the future being set by the past to some degree. And part of what we say there is your Amazon decision today is not going to, on its own, control your future. Amazon is a blend of the past, the present, and the future, and you really have to take that into account. You can't do a really bad job on Amazon for 90 days, or 6 months or whatever, fix it, and then as soon as you fixed it, expect everything to get better. Amazon remembers all that, and I find this very hard to explain to people, but Amazon's memory is unbelievable. There's things that happened in businesses we managed 3 years ago that Amazon is still punishing them for, and you have to bring that into your context of every decision. And a large part of where the mistakes happen and where people start to forget about the relevance and how Amazon works is search and conversion. So how many of you have been in a room where someone's like, it's a £20 product, it's got a great image, it's got all these features, it's definitely going to sell, because the conversion rate they perceive is very high, but usually the bigger problem is we're conversion obsessed and we don't even talk about search. So if that product isn't appearing on search, then regardless of how good your conversion is, you're not going to get the sale. And the first part is always forgotten about. So the algorithm conversation, us as a team, and what we're trying to talk about today is generally search-led. So to break this down a bit, and I'm using the same image for a couple of years, algorithms power what someone sees on a page when they search for a string of words. I have a weird explanation, that one, but ultimately, what you search should show you what you want. However, whenever you search for Moisturizer Women Clinique, that product isn't on this page, and that's because of less relevance, and that less relevance is due to a competitive, aggressive environment, and it's the algorithm choosing what to put there. And that's not good for customers in the sort of micro situation that we have here, because they're not getting what they want. So there has to be reason behind this, and to get the reason, we have to reverse a bit. So let's talk about the Amazon customer journey. User experience, or UX, for our D2C people joining us today. It starts off with search, and search is often forgotten. The best thing about search that I sort of think about when I think about Amazon UK is whatever their GMV is in the UK, 100 billion a year, that's all from one search bar. Like, talk about the most important part of their website and page. And that search bar has a lot of jobs to do. And really it has to break that down, and we'll dig a bit into that, but the search leads to the imagery, and the imagery starts to drive the conversion up and get people interested. They click through, they see the listing details, and from listing details they then go into conversion theory, where they start to think, do I like this, do I want this, can I justify the price? And the algorithm's job on the search part of the journey, on this early part, is to suggest the likely items the customer's going to type. There's 800 million items active on Amazon, and the algorithm has a lot to do to break this down. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this kind of breakdown, or this sort of imagined words that Amazon throws in, and I'm always really fascinated with the crap that it puts at the top of these things, where like I'm putting in something very generic, and you would expect the top to be full of very, very key stuff, right up the street of what I'm looking for, and there's some like model number of some weird product that's top of the search, and I don't quite understand that, but we're trying to understand that a bit better, because that leads people. And if they put something up there, when you type in the letter B, for example, if they put a weird thing up there, a lot of people are going to click that for whatever reason, accidentally, maybe they mistook it, but Amazon has a lot in terms of the way it's leading people here. And let's talk about the search funnel. So these 800 million items, whenever you start searching words in short-term, sort of short numbers of words, or long tail keywords as they're called, whenever you add a lot more in, that's how like the search discovery goes. And the way I see it is, I think they start with stuff like red bag, then they're like, actually I don't like any of these plastic ones, I want to put leather in, so I want a leather bag. Clearly that was obvious from the start. So they throw leather in, and then it's all female bags, so they start searching for men's red leather bag, and so on and so forth. And as they go through that search, and as they start to understand this, the results whittle down. So by the time they've dropped their 6-word search term in here, they're down to like 0.0014 million, which is 14,000 or 140,000, I'm not sure. And that is a hell of it's a much easier number to go through than the 800 million they started off. Language is incredible that way in terms of the short number of words you put in to whittle through this, and it's because each time you put a word in, you rule out the 95% of search terms still in there that don't have that word. So when it comes to colors, there's only like 7, 8, 9 main colors. It doesn't like slice through it that much, but if you put in red and leather, by the time you get to there, you've reduced that by 1600x. And that's how it works, and that's how it sort of plays together. So the algorithm is a maths game, and that's the way we see it, and I can just see half the room turn off as soon as they hear maths, and it's simple enough. I understand it, so it must be simple. And basically the way it works is there's points awarded for aspects of your Amazon product and your Amazon account and so on. And the points go in a model kind of like this. So customer service has 2 available points, imagery has 2 available points, and feedback has 2 available points, and the total possible score is 8 because it's 2 by 2 by 2. So that's kind of how the modeling works. And nobody's perfect, so the score that's likely to come through is probably a 1.96 out of 2 in customer service. It's pretty good, 98%. Imagery of 1.8, somebody's got a bit of homework to do there. and feedback of 1.65, which is, quite a few customers have had a bad delivery experience. So when you multiply those together, you get 5.82 out of 8, which, I don't know, less than 6 out of 8, less than 75%. It's not sounding that good, but it's not about being perfect in your contrast to 100%. It's about your contrast to the market and everybody else who's in that pot. So competitors only score 4.7 out of 8. Therefore, you win because you're at a 5.82. It's not about being perfect. Let me reiterate that. It's about beating the competition. However, I sort of lied to you so far just to make it a wee bit easier in the earlier slides, and we'll sort of ramp this up as we go on here. The algorithm doesn't just measure 3 variables, which a lot of you will have known. It measures 150 variables. Now, I couldn't fit 150 in this page, nor do I know them all, so I put in a skim of them and some of the ones that we talk about in our office, and that is things like search relevance, account health, and MADS is an amazing thing where if you multiply the 16 of these together, the 11 of these together, 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, etc., you get to a total possible score of 8,192, which is starting to get into a much more complex kind of position for us, and my MADS is starting to sort of disconnect from the reality of what's going on here, so I'm struggling to keep up with this same way as you are. And to throw it out one further, the variables aren't fixed. They are allocated points relating to importance, and therefore then that percentage comes in the third column where it starts to say, yeah, the points all multiply together, but search relevance is 22% of the 8192, and that goes way above account health, etc., etc. So you have search relevance and price kind of dominating that. This isn't statistically true. This is going in the right direction. We're estimating this changes and there's more in that, but this is kind of how the modeling's going. And then one day we make a few mistakes, we as the seller, and we let a few priorities slip, and Amazon's A9 algorithm killer defense mechanism kicks in, and we've called that the red zone. The red zone's not a good place to be, and I've been in the red zone in December more than any other month, and it's a really horrendous time of the year to have a client in crisis because you've all these other sort of priorities, you're winding down for the year, it's peak and so on, but there's more mistakes happen in the busy period than happen in the non-busy period. And what happens then is Amazon forgets the percentages that were in the third column. Amazon moves on to the fourth column, which is the red zone, which is they start not measuring you on your overall good performance, they start measuring you on the areas that they think is sensitive to customers. That is things like account health, which jumps up to 17% of relevance. You've got 90-day sales history, which is a big one, 18%, etc., etc. And price gets inflated as well. So in all the areas you've been doing well in, they start to dilute you, and in all the areas you've probably been struggling in order to hit this algorithm warning in this red zone, they're going to penalize you even more so. And the reality of what happens then is you're in a tough position and you got to work to get out of it. And that affects every single product you have. You can't have a bad account and a good product in Amazon. So whenever people are hyper obsessed about one SKU out of 47, and people are looking at that and they are also looking at their account, I mean, I'd forget about the SKU, I'd just let the SKU burn because the account is where my worries are, because that's 47 SKUs, and that's what we have to relate to. And there's a hyper obsession with SKUs, and there's a real lack of obsession with account health and algorithm. So that was the whistle-stop tour of algorithms. It was double the length last year, but I'm trying to change things up a bit. So if anybody wants to talk about that, you can reach out to me after. I can talk all day about that. I suppose it is my job, but happy to talk about it, happy to hang around after. I'll move over to the side just so the next speaker can get on. We've 10 minutes left. I've got case studies and Q&A to get through. So the first one, case studies, is, I can see all the pens coming out here, is the finance side. So a lot of people do breakdowns of how finance works on Amazon. This is a finance breakdown roughly across our clients for 3 different sections, 10% margin, 20% margin, 30% margin, and it's the numbers that need to be moved around as a percentage to make those margins. So margin of 10%, that's like trading margin or contribution margin, and that's basically the margin that's hitting the bank that doesn't have to pay for anything except for rent, wages, and so on. If it's a 10%, you can afford to have product cost at 27%, UK tax is fixed, your shipping can be at 19.9, etc., etc. To push to a 20% margin, which is where we start to get into the really healthy zone here, you need your product cost probably to drop to about 23.4. That's your COGS. That's basically if your product costs you landed £5, you need to sell it for 20, roughly. Amazon ads, 15% is fixed, the same way as VAT. Amazon 15%. Your Amazon ads then kind of needs to drop to about 6.4, and the reason for that is the margin needs to start coming out of places, and it can't come out of the fixed numbers, so it has to come out of the non-fixed. And that's probably where you get to as you start to develop. 30% margin, which is very rare on Amazon. Like a 30% margin on Amazon, being totally honest with you, is 1 in 10 accounts maybe, something like that. You need your product cost to go a bit further down. You need your Amazon ads, and we have the data on this, to drop to about 2%, and that is actual. The talk before, there's one of our clients at it, and they're at about 2%, so that can happen, and 14.9 on shipping, etc., and that leaves you 30 points of margin. So the thing that I would say in this, in summary, is it doesn't take much skimming off a few areas to equal the margin that you've long been chasing, so that's the way I would look at it. So equity in Amazon, this is a new graph, I didn't have this last year. Tough one to explain. The rank on Amazon is a thing called the sales rank. It's your rank in the category. So 1 is good, 500,000 is not good. And the categories are pretty big. So home and decor is a category, garden and outdoors is a category, grocery is a category. And as you want to improve your rank, can you still hear me okay on this mic, everybody? As you want to improve your rank and move down closer to the 1 spot, what happens is, and we never would have predicted this, we put 14 million pounds through this, and it came out with this graph. It's a maths teacher's dream, because it works perfectly, and there's none of those wee sneaky outliers that you have to kind of strike through. And the reason for that is the algorithm, the Amazon system, is so focused in on your rank being controlled by your reviews, that your reviews basically choose your rank. And that's a big play in the algorithm piece, and that's pure data. We did not fudge that whatsoever. I didn't think it would look that good. I thought it would be a much harder explanation. That is literally how it looks. So you've got these kind of reviews up at the £1,700 mark. They're really what's pushing that rank down, and it's whenever you're getting down to like rank 1 or rank 10 or something, you need to have like 10,000 reviews to be dominating a category like that within a marketplace that's 15 years old. The Amazon ads uplift, frequent question. And the way we break it down is you need to think about your ads in 2 ways, and we talked about this in the previous conversation. An existing product, such as a product with 100 reviews and 2 years trading history, and a new product with 0 reviews and 1 week's trading history, they're very different. And we're quite anti-ads just because we've had a lot of customers lost a lot of money with it, and we've tried to work on that over the years and get better and better. But the breakdown is really interesting because existing products, you can sometimes see an uplift, and this is our sort of typical range of 40 to 70% when you push ads really hard. The thing that happens on a new product, because you're fighting against, it's in an unknown space, so it's not getting any natural sales, you've the uplift potential of between 120 and 640%. So when we start to see this, we start to feel a lot healthier about ads, because ads are finding a way of making themselves a lot more affordable, and that's on new products. That's whenever you're trying to chase ROAS and ensure your numbers are lining up. The Amazon Vine program, I stole this graph off someone. It's a client, so it wasn't really me stealing it, but I really don't like the graph, so apologies for that. But I was kind of running out of time last night at 10:30 in the evening with a flight this morning at 5 a.m., so this was the best I could do. This is the moment where these 5 SKUs got Vine put onto them. Now, Vine is a Amazon affiliated review scheme, and the point is that these are legitimate reviews that Amazon helped you get. A lot of debate about the use of them. This graph shows it pretty clearly. Revenue goes straight up, and we've seen that time and time again. So for us, Amazon Vines are very healthy and very affordable, and it's a very, very sort of verified way of getting your reviews in an area that's often black hat. And this is the one that I think was the third point of what we kind of promised today, so I wanted to leave this to the end and just make sure it's a really good one. Amazon Secrets, so here's your ranking reviews again, same graph, and what happens is you're ranking keywords, which is a large part of your equity play on Amazon. It goes really, really solidly up as your reviews go up, and the 2 of those coexist, and they coexist alongside revenue, and you basically can't have revenue up here without reviews there and rank here. And it's like a really special relationship we've found. One of the things I would say is you can't use ads to pay your way to that performance. There's a ceiling on you because Amazon want the 10,000 reviews that have been verified by probably 100,000 customers to go above all else. But on this journey and on the way to more revenue, what you can start to do is bring your ad spend down. And the reason for that is Amazon has given you more natural space, and they're allowing you to exist in a place without paying as much for it, and that's how you develop your Amazon business. And the pathway from 0 to 100 million that we have been on with a few people at different points typically goes like that, and your present does not determine your future. If your Amazon ads percentage is 14 right now, your target for next year should be 9, because what that does is release 5 points back into margin, and that's how you improve your business, margin as well as top line. We have 3 minutes left, so I'm going to jump to questions and answers, but hopefully that was kind of useful. Any questions? There's somebody at the front, if we can get a mic. Hello.
Hiya, Victoria, head of ecom at Misfits. You talked about the volume of reviews. Does the star rating, the average rating, play into this algorithm, or don't we know?
Yeah. The average rating in there, 4.4 is healthy, 4.2 is midpoint. Anything below 4 is starting to worry me. And the difference in those 4 points out of the 5 stars is huge, and that's all based on where competitors and the average normally sits. Hopefully that answers that question. I think I have 2 minutes. There's a guy at the back, sorry. Hey.
Hey there, cheers. What informs the weighting of the variables you give, the 150 variables you're talking about, the algorithm? What informs all the percentage weightings you showed on the slide?
Sorry, just I understood what the 150 variables, just the specific question.
Yeah, what informs the percentages you're showing for each of those variables?
Yeah, so we put our revenue basically through a lot of the different variables, and we started trying to put the revenue into areas where people performed well and didn't perform well. And those percentages, as I said, are like an opinion piece and a rough guide. But what we saw was, even if you've got great X, Y, and Z, and you enter the red zone, it's these other indicators that really control your future in that moment. So the breakdown's there, and one of the best measurements we can use for rating ourselves in that is that sales rank, a really strong way of measuring yourself and benchmarking yourself, and the number of ranking search terms. And one of the best measures we've ever had is when someone loses market position, we see what the sales rank has changed by, and what the number of ranking search terms has changed by, and where they've lost ground. And that's a good benchmark for us against where we are in the market, rather than just where we are in terms of our revenue today versus last week. Sorry, I can't dig into that any further. There was 2 questions here, and I have one last question, maybe 2. Two seconds.
Yeah.
Go ahead, hold it nice and close.
Got it. Do you see any difference with the sustainability on-off? And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, like great conversion driver, much higher in some countries than it is in the UK, based on probably the acceptance and so on and the belief in it, but absolutely huge. And that's a conversion piece. It doesn't, as far as we can see it, fit into the algorithm side. It just fits into the conversion side. Now, it would fit in indirectly through click-through rate and through conversion being driven up, but very, very key. I think from a PR point of view and how any brand should feel and look, it's just getting more and more important.
Do you have any metrics on...
An email address for me?
Have any metrics?
Oh, any metrics? No, we have no metrics. So I think 7% of our clients' products are heading the right direction from a green point of view, and we haven't benchmarked that yet against anything. Sorry about that. Sorry. This gentleman here, I think. Sorry. No, behind you. Oh.
It's all right.
Hey.
Hi. So what other Amazon-approved ways have you been finding successful to get reviews besides Vine?
Amazon allow you to request a review post-purchase, so that's a good start, and you can use tools to automate that. And you're also allowed to send, I believe, 2 emails on top of the request review button, requesting feedback. Is that your question? Being a vendor, and to be fair, because of the way we're positioned, only 12% of our clients are vendor. So on the vendor side, I'm actually not too sure on that one, but you got to be really careful. There's a lot of black hat stuff a few years ago. You can ask people to leave a review. There's this really handy URL, amazon.co.uk/RYP, which is rate your product or rate your purchase. And if you put that onto a piece of paper or onto your product and ask for an honest review, I think that's as far as you can go that Amazon will approve, because you're asking for honesty, you're not asking for a 5-star review. On the vendor side, can you include that? Not 100% sure. And in terms of the softwares and the request reviews, I don't know, but I will check that. My email address, I'll put it up in a second here. If you want to drop me an email with that, I'll find that out for you from our clients by tomorrow. Hello?
Question about the return rate.
Return rate?
Return rate.
Yeah.
Do they consider any return as a return, or if it's lost parcel?
Yeah, good question. So return rates, the question is, do they separate the return rates and sort of penalize you more for one rather than another one? Yeah, and for us, the return rate is the return rate, and you can always click that button and try and disguise it as the customer sent it, the customer decided they didn't want it, and so on, but your return rate is your return rate. Now, what's really interesting is, on the metrics side, they don't penalize it formally as much as they do some of the others. So late dispatch rate, 4%, They don't want it any more than that. A to Z guarantee claims, 1%, that's your limits. On the return side, they leave it in a funny position where you start getting emails, but they don't formalize your return rate in a huge percentage in front of you as visibly as other areas. We think the reason for that is in clothing, you're looking at 16%. In home and decor, sub £10 products, you're looking at like 0.4% returns because it's going to cost you a bit of hassle. You probably don't care if you paid less than £10 for it. Return's not a big thing. Clothing, quite often returned because you buy 3 trying to get the right size or the right color, you return 2. So I think that's why they have left that out, but the returns are, for us, are stable in terms of which type. I think I'm out of time. They're about to drag me off, so thank you for your time. Hopefully that was interesting. Email address is there. I'll be over to the side. Thank you very much.